Rockstar Gang, what up, what up, what up? Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button as always. Had to fix my overlay there. We got some free agency news we're going to dive into today. And there's one in particular that I'm going to dive into first. Like, we're just because this guy that has been talked about with the Carolina Panthers for quite some time now, and his name keeps getting thrown around. And today, there's some breaking news about a fan favorite in T. Higgins. If you don't know, now you know. If you don't know, now you know. Just soak it in, Panthers fans, because this is what it feels like right here. Yep. That is sad news. So the Bengals are going to focus on signing T. Higgins to a long-term deal. The pipe dream of landing T. Higgins again for us Carolina Panthers and holding that hope that T. Higgins might waltz into Bank of America Stadium this offseason. It's time to face the reality, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Cincinnati Bengals just did what everyone with a half a brain expected them to do. They slapped a franchise tag on T. Higgins for the second straight year. So yeah, he's off the table again. And if Carolina was banking on finally landing their wide receiver one, it's back to the drawing board. All right. So now we're going to have to explore other options and less exciting options, maybe to some. I don't know. Maybe other options are more exciting than T. Higgins. That doesn't mean all hope is lost, right? It's just postponed, gentlemen. It's postponed. Okay. It's postponed. So, yeah. Postponed. It is postponed. I heard about that. Him and Bengals are starting. To be honest, I don't care whether we get him or not. Yep. Paul Nielsen says can't afford him anyways. Yeah, well, we thought about that. We thought we couldn't afford Robert Hunt, Paul, or we couldn't afford Damian Lewis last offseason. So I would say we could afford him, but that's neither here nor there. What's up, Anthony? Appreciate you, man. Again, here's the thing. Because now this, I'll say this from a free agency standpoint. Like the Panthers wide receiver problem just got more complicated. Like Carolina has been desperate for a true number one wide receiver to get Bryce a fighting chance in 2024. I mean, the Panthers wide receiver core has been at best mediocre and at worst completely useless. Now, again, this past year, Jalen Coker might be a diamond in the rough. Xavier Get's got some work to do, but the potential's there. I think he's a raw talent, right? As for Adam Thielen, you get him back, a veteran, savvy veteran, Mr. Reliable. I mean, Higgins seemed like the perfect target, big, dynamic, the exact type of playmaker who could help develop Bryce Young's sophomore season. The downside is he's going to cost a fortune. You go look at the market value on T. Higgins. So if we go to look at T. Higgins market value, which I'm gonna have to go pull them up. I think it's around $25 million per year, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Based off of over the cap, he's worth 21. But to Spot Track, Spot Track, he's worth $25.4 million based on spot track, he's worth 25.4 million. He's going to be looking for a 4-year contract. You see the market value. You're talking about $101 million market value for him. Okay. So, it's a big time contract that you're looking at to sign T. Higgins. And yeah, and party card, you know what? That's crazy. Trey Higginson and trade back for Burden, Ibuka, another second round. I don't know about that party cardy. Sounds like a lot. Omar will definitely be talking about Chris Godwin. Them tagging basically means Hendrick's gone. Yeah. Which means that freaking Bengals defense is going to be absolutely ass. That Bengals defense is going to be absolutely ass. Jermaine Pratt is probably gone as well. I don't know, man. It makes it for me from a standpoint. I feel like it makes more sense for the Bengals to move on from T. Higgins and find a cheaper option. I mean, there's got to be a solid number 2 out there that you could bring in. And honestly, I think that if I'm the Bengals, wouldn't you say they need a running back? Like, I mean, I guess Chase Brown and Zach Moss did okay last year, but I felt like you could tell Joe Mixon was definitely missing. And look what Joe Mixon did in Houston. Like, I don't know. But here's the thing. But again, at the end of the day, the Bengals are are tagging him, and instead of letting him, test the free agency market. But I mean, the Bengals did what they're doing what they have to do to lock him down for sure with the franchise tag, keep him from hitting the open market, which means that every wide receiver needy team, including us, Patriots, Chargers, now has to scramble for alternatives, right? And let's be real, the options aren't great. I mean, I'll say this: the free agency market's thin, especially the wide receiver, right? And now it's even thinner with this, right? Now, what's left out there? Okay, if we go look at what's left out there, now that Higgins off the board, who's their best remaining option? Maybe Chris Godwin, sure. A reliable possession receiver, but he's not Higgins. He's not a guy who's going to take over a game or completely change the outlook of an offense. I feel that the Panthers need a true number 1 wide receiver for sure, but they don't need just a decent number 2 pretending to be a 1. And beyond Godwin, the list of free agents gets pretty damn bleak. I mean, I think Michael Pittman Jr. is a name that's floated around, but I feel like he lacks that explosiveness to a single-handedly elevate an offense, right? Calvin really inconsistent, older now. Mike Evans still great, but aging. But he signed back with Tampa Bay, right? Like, the reality is none of these options, I feel like, in the free agent market from a wide receiver standpoint are going to have the same impact as a T. Higgins would have brought to the table. So what are the options now? Again, they can roll the dice on an aging veteran. They take a chance on an unproven free agent, or they hope they hit the jackpot in the draft, right? I mean, they could also explore the trade market, but that will require giving up draft capital. And that's something they may not be willing to do with so many roster holes. Here's the thing. It could be a blessing in disguise, maybe. Like, I don't know. Like, that's the silver lining I feel like I can give you. Like, Carolina probably wasn't in a position to shell out a massive contract to Higgins this year anyways, which Paul said earlier, and he's probably right. I mean, even though I did mention that we were able to sign Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, but that's because of Brant Tillis. That's why I say I feel like we can't afford it, but it's the way Brant Tillis did the contracts. Now, here's the thing. We're still going to be dealing with the fallout of the past financial decisions, right? Throwing a quarter of the budget at one player, no matter how good he is, that might not even be the smartest move. Next year, that's a different story. We're projected to have around $169 million in cap space in 2025, and that number will shrink after this year's signings and rookie contracts, right? But they should be in much better, I would say probably much better financial shape to make a serious run at a top wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and guess what? Higgins will almost certainly be available. So, and here's the thing. Here's the reason. Unless they sign him, they tag him. I mean, Joe Burrow has already said that he's willing to take a pay cut to keep T. Higgins here. But again, at the same time, I mean, the Bengals are in a financial death spiral. They already paid Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase is up next for an extension. That's going to cost a fortune. And their defense, yeah, they still need to field one of those too. The Cincinnati simply can't afford to keep everyone. Like, I think Higgins, even if they keep him another year and he plays on that franchise tag, I think even by the end of 2025 season, he's the odd man out. The only reason Cincinnati tagged him this year is that they could afford to barely. But another year of cap gymnastics for them all it's going to change is the inevitability that Higgins is as good as gone in 2025. I can tell you that. The Bengals might be clinging to him now, but next year they'll have no chance and he will walk. And Higgins himself may also want out. He's been stuck behind Chase's shadow in that Cincinnati offense. And while he's an incredible talent, he hasn't had the opportunity to show that he's a true number one. And if he wants that chance and he wants that payday that comes with it, he's going to have to leave Cincinnati, in my opinion. Assuming they still, and at the time, Carolina, assuming we still need a wide receiver one, I can tell you right now, again, this conversation will be brought up again and we'll be open arms and have a blank check ready for him. So I'll say this. Carolina, Dan Morgan, this front office will have to pivot away from this, right? They again, I know we need a wide receiver one for Bryce Young, and unless they pull a blockbuster trade, which seems unlikely given given our assets, right? They're left shifting through Plan B options. Now, here's another idea I had in mind. Let's say a team who lacks defense, or maybe wants to go get a quarterback, or maybe wants to get one of those top offensive tackles, or wants to get one of those top defensive guys, or maybe wants an Ashton Genty that's available there at number 8. Maybe Carolina can pull that best offer out, trade down at number 8, still get some draft capital back, and maybe trade maybe only one pick out of that trade to get a wide receiver. There's multiple options that they can go here, right? None of these, but again, a lot of these options aren't ideal, ladies and gentlemen. Like, again, they could target a second tier free agent, gamble on another rookie receiver in the draft, or try to get by with what they already have and hope for internal development. Because none of these are great solutions. They're all that's left on the table. So for me, I feel like this big old dream of T. Higgins in Carolina it's not. I don't think it's dead. I think it's delayed. I just don't think it's this year. So again, this is an interesting conversation now that we're having. This is an interesting conversation. How old's Godwin, Paul? He is 29. I'm not mistaken. We're getting our players in the draft free agency, the young free agents, period. I feel like Bryce, you don't need a true number one. You need wide receivers that thrive in their skill set, route runner, flyer, security. Let him be a true point guard. I think we may need to wait another year for a wide receiver. So this year, focus on improving their defense. I'm cool with that. A now. Many other teams keep getting these guys that ball out or show signs. We keep panicking because we don't get what we want and be smart in the draft free agency potential. Dom, you're speaking some facts, man. Tillis has already shown he can work magic. That's true, Paul. That's what I was saying. Like, I think that we could have still worked the magic out with this type of, even though earlier you said we can't afford it. I beg to differ. Like, that's what I'm saying. I think Tillis could have worked some deal out to make this happen, but that's just me. Well, we'll get that guy in the draft. Smith, High State wideout in 2027 draft. He that dude. I mean, would be a poster. I mean, that's a possibility, Don 34. I mean, I just don't know if I like that move, man. I just don't know if I like T Mac at 8. Just because I know how deep this draft class is, but I still want to get those big name, that chip, that, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's again. I think again, like I like the last mock draft I said, I felt like I feel like Walter Nolan slept on. And in that last mock draft, I got I killed on it. But go watch his tape. Walter Nolan is a true 1-3-5 technique type of guy that fits in this 3-4 defense and would thrive in Evero's defense. And I think he's a true nose tackle. I think the same thing with Harmon out of Oregon. So I don't know, man. It's still up in the air for me. Panthers need a quarterback draft pick. No, they don't. They don't. They don't need a quarterback draft pick, Omar. No, they don't. Appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Do me a favor. Make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss any new content. Basically, do me a favor. Just do these 3 things. Interesting conversation. Good conversation chat, by the way. Good conversation chat. Good conversation. All right, let's get into some other free agents. Now, another guy I like. We can talk about Jermaine Pratt. You saw him on TV, or you saw him on not TV. You saw him on the thumbnail. Actually, you know what? Let's just use PFF. I'll share him. We'll share Jermaine Pratt on there instead. We'll just rock that. Because Jermaine Pratt is a good one. Jermaine Pratt. There he is. Let's pull him up. Share the screen. There we go. All right, Jermaine Pratt, 6'3", 250 pounds, 28-year-old linebacker. Now, you know how I feel about this linebacker. Look at that run defensive grade. Over 107 solo tackles, 30 assisted, 2 forced fumbles, 0 sacks on the year, 7th in stops. 8th in total snaps, 11th in run defensive snaps, pass rushing snaps. He's 31st. Coverage, pass coverage snaps. Total pressures 10. Passer rating allowed 103.5. So again, he's not very good in coverage. But I think in Jermaine Pratt, I'll say this. I'll say this about Jermaine Pratt. I think that he is. I think Jermaine Pratt is a guy. Go after Nick Bolton. He fits the 3-4 scheme. Would be a monster. I'm cool. And listen, Nick Bolton's a guy I've talked about too, man. Party Cardi. I've talked about Nick Bolton too. I'm throwing all options out here on the table at this point. You know, we're doing a whole defensive overhaul. So no one in my mind as a linebacker, defensive lineman, edge rusher, anybody that can come in here and make somewhat of an impact is on my radar. So trust me. Nick Bolton, I talked about him last week. He's on my radar for sure. But I like Jermaine Pratt as a guy that could possibly be like a replacement for Shaq Thompson, right? Because we know there's a big question mark on Shaq Thompson. Shaq has been a staple of this defense for years, but the reality is knocking at the door, I think, for Shaq Thompson, right? I mean, you're coming off an Achilles, a torn Achilles. The second time in 3 seasons he's suffered an absolute significant injury. Now, I get it. He wants to stay with the Panthers, and he believes he's got plenty of gas in the tank. Okay. But let's be real here. If we're talking about betting on a 30-year-old linebacker coming off a major injury, count me out. It's risky business at the end of the day. A 1-year prove it deal, maybe. But counting on him as a long-term solution for the next 4 to 5 years type of contract, that's a wishful thinking. Right? You bring in a guy like Jermaine Pratt. I think he's a perfect trade target. Now, you would have to trade for Jermaine Pratt. Okay. Timing is everything in the NFL. The Panthers got handed an opportunity. And I think this is one of those opportunities that you just can't ignore in this situation, as in a Jermaine Pratt. Like the Cincinnati Bengals linebacker, Jermaine Pratt he officially requested a trade. He's disgruntled. Obviously, the Bengals are prioritizing their offense over keeping him happy. That's Carolina's chance to pounce. Same thing with Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson could be a guy that Carolina pounces on. He just became the sack king this past year with what, 17, 18 sacks, led the league. Pratt is a tackling machine. We just saw it, 107 tackles. You see it right there. But he racked up a total of 143 tackles total. So he's a force against the run. We already saw his run grade. That's something that we desperately need after giving up embarrassing amount of numbers against the rush last season. His coverage skills, again, we looked at it. They aren't elite. They're not elite by any means, but let's not kid ourselves. One of our biggest problems here is stopping teams from bulldozing us over into oblivion. This guy is someone I feel like could fix that immediately. I think he would make an immediate impact in that run game. This would also be a homecoming for Mr. Jermaine Pratt. If y'all don't know, Jermaine Pratt is a North Carolina native, played at NC State. He would bring some much needed leadership to the mess of a defense that we already have. Now, if we were talking about financials, trade value on this guy, let's be honest. Can Carolina make it work? Well, Pratt's contract situation, I looked at it earlier, which makes him more enticing. So let me pull it up. I'm going to pull up his value here. Market value. Market comments. What? Let's pull this. So let's share this instead. All right. So market value. We're looking at so He's got 1 year left on that contract that he's under right there. Okay. Um, he's got 1 year left with no deal. No, 1 year left on his deal. No guaranteed money, if you can see that. Okay. He's set to count 8.1. If you add this all up correctly, he's set to collect around 8.1 million, basically, against the cap. Okay. The Panthers are tight on cash. So with Tillis Magic, I think he can make this work because he's not an elite pass rusher. So his trade value isn't very sky high. And Morgan could likely get him without coughing up a premium draft pick. Right. I mean, again, I hate to think of the thought of these trading draft picks, but you got to sacrifice something to get another, like sacrificing 1 or 2 mid rounders for a proven durable linebacker who fits perfectly here. I think it's a good idea. Is it a no-brainer? I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer, but I think it's a good idea. Right? I think it's something that we could look into, going forward. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that he's going to be the end all be all, but it could be something that we looked into going forward. Clay, what are your thoughts on Will Johnson? I like him. I mean, I listen, I'm not opposed to Will Johnson. Like at number 8, it's just that, I mean, again, if we're not, I guess that could be a guy if, let's say, Mason Graham and Abdul Carter are off the board, but here's the thing about Will Johnson. I like him. He's a 6'2", 202-pound corner, runs a 4.40. I mean, he's the modern day NFL cornerback you're looking for. Long, physical, smart as hell. He's the type of guy. I mean, when you look at Will Johnson, he's that type of guy that erases entire sides of the field. That's what Will Johnson does. I think his range and anticipation, he's not the fastest, but his technique, play recognition, that's where he makes up ground. I think he's a potential corner 1 for a smart defense, but again, I'm just not I'm just it's so hard for me to sit here and say to go get a corner when I know we need defensive line help. That is the biggest thing to me. It's hard for me to sit here and say, yeah, let's go get Will Johnson at number 8 when we need defensive line help. That's the biggest thing of it for me. Chiefs ain't letting go of Nick Bolton. We should pursue Dre Greenlaw. I said that last week as well. Hey, now I think Dre Greenlaw is another guy. I know he's coming off he came off a serious injury in the Super Bowl, but damn, when he came back, man, for San Francisco. I mean, this was his stats just this year alone, coming off an Achilles injury, and I think this was after. I think this was his stats after. How many games did he play? I think he only played like shit. I don't think he played a lot of games. Yeah, he played 2 games. And then this was his stat line in 2 games last year. I mean, and that's coming off an Achilles. He's not bad. And his grading overall, I mean, that's his grading overall after 2 games. Yeah, I think Dre Greenlaw's a beast. Think he would fit here perfectly. So, hey, now, I mean, we're on the same page with that, bro. We are on the same page with that. Now, there's another guy that we've talked about here, and I want to, as a free agent, Josh Sweat. I want to bring up his market value. Okay, when we talk about Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat's market value has now skyrocketed. So here's his market value now. This is Josh Sweat's market value. So here's the thing. I know we talked about Josh Sweat a lot here on the channel. I want to be perfectly clear about something with Josh Sweat's market, with where this is. So that we need an edge rusher, right? I think his price tag might be too steep for us. Like he's looking like a legit target for us, but let's be real here. This is going to cost a pretty penny, okay? Like after that standout performance in Super Bowl performance, man. Yeah. We're talking about cash money now. Like this guy's price tag, I had to have shot through the roof, right? I've seen his market value even higher than this. I've seen it where it's at 22 million for the next 3 years. So if that's the case, 22 million for the next 3 years, you're looking at 66 million, which is $10 million more than you see up there. So, so Sweat here's the thing. Sweat over the last 4 seasons has 33 sacks. So he's been incredibly consistent and he's only 27 years old. He's a prime time pass rusher. He's a pass rusher in his prime, man. And teams around the league, I know, are going to be chomping at the bit to throw stacks and cash at this guy. So if you're looking for a top tier edge rusher, someone who could change a game, Sweat is that guy. He checks all the boxes off: size, length, athleticism, and most importantly, he produces. So that's the difference I put between Brian Burns and a Josh Sweat. See, Brian Burns felt like he should get paid $30 million a year, but didn't produce like a guy like a Josh Sweat does. Sorry, he just doesn't. Now, here's the thing. Is it worth it for us to go after a guy like Josh Sweat? If Sweat is looking at anything close 22 per year, which is more than what I've seen his market value around that, Carolina just doesn't have the financial flexibility, in my opinion, to make it happen without severely limiting other areas. Like severely limiting other areas of our team. So I think if Dan Morgus wants to focus on the trenches, which he absolutely should, paying for a guy like Josh Sweat might not be the smartest move. Instead, the Panthers could shift focus to more like an affordable, equally impactful option like a Milton Williams. Like, again, we know this offseason is a deep defensive line, edge rushing type of class. Like I said, I believe this might be a better class in those instances than the 2019 draft class. So I think Morgan, in my opinion, should look to snag a player who can contribute immediately alongside Derek Brown, while you've got Clowney and Wanham, who are likely to return next year. Add a young, explosive pass rusher from the college ranks, could give Panthers a long-term asset with more upside, and you don't have to break the bank to get him. So they probably should pick up a veteran if they want to, cheaper later on in free agency, in my opinion. Now that Josh Sweat's market value has exploded. That's basically what it's done. It's exploded. That's basically what it's done with Josh Sweat. Still cheaper than Brian Burrs, 15 to 22 for Sweat's worth it, but I'd rather have Milton. I swear it seems like we never have any money for free agents. Shake my head. I know, man. I know. Terrible free agency draft this year. Chuck, I mean, the draft ain't bad. I mean, I don't know what you're watching, but I can tell you right now, this is going to be one of the best defensive draft classes we've seen. And I'm telling you this right now, Chuck, since the 2019 draft class. So, terrible free agency? Sure. Draft? No. This is a big time defensive draft class. You might need to go check that again. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. We will have a lot more money. Yeah, I mean, if they do that, but we don't even know if they're going to do that. We don't even know if they're going to make that move yet. We don't even know if they're going to make that move yet. Yeah, should they make that move? Sure. Do one or the other. I'm okay with either way. But I can tell you right now, Taylor Moton has had the best lowest pressure rate allowed among our offensive linemen. Chuck, I beg to differ, man. I think this draft class is deeper than that. I totally beg to differ on that. I think this draft class is way bigger than that. I think you're going to be able to get blue chip players even up to the third round. I think there's going to be some sneaky good players defensively. I mean, Max Crosby in that 2019 draft class, I think got drafted in the 5th round. I just agree to disagree. Sure, but it's definitely not a terrible draft class. Yeah, for sure. I agree. Absolutely. All right, let's get into some other free agents. Which I'm open to these guys. I mean, most of these guys' market value are pretty good coming up that we're going to talk about. There may be one or two that we're still going to talk about that might not be as from a market value standpoint. Okay, Kendall Fuller. When was the last time we had a stud do a wide receiver since DC Muhammad? I don't know. It's been never. I would say never. Unless you consider that year when we had DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel. Didn't we have all 3 of them on one team? Or was it? No. I don't even think Curtis Samuel was a part with Robbie Anderson. I mean, you couldn't even compare Steve Smith and DJ Moore to. Yeah, you can't compare that. So I would say never. Honestly, now. Trayvon Moehrig or bust. Oh, T. Thompson coming in with a heat. T. Thompson coming in the heat. By the way, guys, we have a live goal for some Teal super chats. By the way, make sure you guys do that. If you want to level up the fun, help support the channel, and become a mod. If you want to become a mod today, go ahead and I'll make you a mod if you get into that those super chats. By the way, also become a member today. Let's make headlines together. All right, let's make headlines together. I appreciate y'all. All right, I appreciate y'all. There's no way we only have 2 likes, by the way. Okay, we got 18 likes. I was about to say, there's no way we only have two likes or 18 likes. Guys, make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've got over 30 people watching. So we've got over 32 people watching. So make sure we're at 18 likes. Make sure you pound that like button. Right. All right. Chuck Lee, I mean, again, agree to disagree, but you can always think about Trayvon Walker. Do you ever think, does anybody else besides me think about Trayvon Walker, how he was a mid first round pick and ended up getting first overall? Does nobody ever, I guess we just throw that out the window, right? How guys can just jump up the draft board based off combine and pro days and senior days and senior bowl, stuff like that. We just because I mean I want Chuck. I would love your logic on that. I'd love your logic on that. Give me some logic on how and back up your points. You have guys like Pierce and Michael Williams would be late first, second rounders in a good job. Make it make sense. Because yeah, I don't have guys like Pierce and Michael Williams up in the top 8, top 10 picks. I don't. I have them at the later rounds. But again, that doesn't. Walker was okay. Thank you. You just proved my point. Walker was an elite size and tested great. Why can't any else of these guys going forward do that and make this an elite draft class? You can't tell me this is not that. This can't be an elite draft class. I'm telling you right now, in my opinion, I think this is going to end up being one of the best defensive draft classes, not just from a deep standpoint. I'm talking about elite talent, in my opinion. You just proved my point, though, with that statement right there. Walker's elite size and tested great. So there's a plenty of those guys in here that could do the same damn thing. Sometimes size doesn't matter, Chuck. Sometimes size doesn't matter in the NFL world. We've seen guys who have been smaller and it works and they work out because they test well and they have elite other skill sets. They have a toolbox of skills. Okay, so now we're talking okay, but Michael, yes, but his stats is terrible. So now we're basing it off stats instead of testing now. Again, we got to make it make sense. All right, let's get into this. Kendall Fuller. Okay. Chances of dual dropping to 8. PBXR, RP. Tough. Tough, PBX. I say slim chance. But if it happens, then we get lucky. We got lucky. But I don't see someone passing up an opportunity on Abdul Carter in the top 5 picks, at least. Someone in the top 5 is picking up Abdul Carter. And I think Mason Graham goes right behind him. Probably like right before we get him. T Thompson, you're too much, man. Kendall Fuller's release is I think him being released because I want to get into Kendall Fuller. I think his release can't be a missed opportunity for Carolina. I think this is a guy that we could look into going into. Let's be honest, Carolina's we know the secondary is not as good. Like I mean, Mike Jack showed some promise. I think maybe there's some potential there. J.C. Horn again, we saw him again. I think he's elite corner. top 10, top 5. You can put him in whichever one. Um, so the thing is I think the Kendall Fuller experience is something that we need, right? If you if we break this down, right, and we say why this makes sense for Carolina, well, here's the thing. He's been around the league long enough to know how this shit works. He's 30, which means he's not exactly a young gun anymore, but he's still got the chops. Miami Dolphins cut him after he spent one season with them. And frankly, that's a head scratcher. Sure, Fuller missed some time due to injury, but when he was on the field, he performed. And that's not a player you should just toss aside. I think Fuller's Super Bowl winner, him being a Super Bowl winner matters. Like he's been an underrated contributor in the league for years. And I think he can help in every phase of the game, like especially when it comes to stopping the run. Right. If we go look at his stopping the run, I mean, he's solid, man. I mean, his grading's not bad. Right. I think he is an underrated contributor. Right. Especially again, that's where the Panthers again, we got our asses handed to us in this past year. Allowing 179 yards per game, basically 180 yards per game when you round it out. Again, that is 30 yards more than the next team. So again, that's where that's why I continue to talk about guys. I feel like their run defense. That's why I look at guys at Kendall Fuller. That's why I look at guys at like Jermaine Pratt, Dre Greenlaw. Like, that's why I bring these guys up. And we know that is one area we have to go upgrade in. Now, Fuller is not going to solve all of our problems, right? I mean, he's definitely, I think, could make a difference. I think his ability to diagnose plays, his tackling instincts could slot him into a starting lineup somewhere from day one. But let's not forget Fuller's no slouch of coverage either. Like, I mean, his coverage grade isn't the best, but it's not bad. I mean, he had a solid 2024 season, right? You got over 50 tackles? Okay, 41 tackles. Well, basically 50 tackles, 8 assisted, 7 passes defended. I think. Thought he said he had 7. I thought it was 7, but I don't see it. Okay, that's fine. But again, I mean, it's a respected season. A 66.2 overall PFF. I mean, that's not a bad player by any means. Like Miami cut him. It wasn't due to the lack of performance. It's because Miami's in basically cap purgatory. I mean, the Dolphins are financially strapped, and so they had to make some tough calls, and I think they're going to continue to have to there. But that gives us an opportunity to go after a guy for Kendall Fuller. So, like I said, aside from JC Horn last year, the rest of this secondary again was a mixture of question marks. Like you had Mike Jackson Sr. again showed flashes. Charles Smith Wade has the potential at nickel, but the reality is we need more, right? In that secondary, we need more. We need the experience. I think they need someone who can come in and make an immediate impact. And I think Fuller fits the mold. Again, he's 30 years old. I get it, but this is a team that we're a team that's not that far of being competitive again. I mean, I always think the NFC South is wide open. And if the Panthers are serious about, again, if you want to make a run or if you want to be competitive in 2025, you can't afford to ignore any opportunity to strengthen your roster, right? I think this guy's leadership, I think an on-field IQ like this guy is invaluable, especially in a defensive led by a guy like Ejiro Evero, who needs players to understand the game at a high level, and Kendall does, right? Now, if we're talking about money, again, money always talks, right? Money always talks. Okay. Fuller's already getting a $5.4 million contract from Miami in 2024, 2025. So what's going to happen is his asking price isn't likely to be astronomical because, again, I think if we can work out a deal where Fuller's motivated by the chance to contribute to a team on the rise like us, I mean, you could probably bargain with him, right? Like, I think the hardest part here will be convincing him that this is the right place for him, especially when he could easily go to a contender. But I think if we're smart enough, you could sell him on the upside of our defense and rebuilding and a chance to that the fact that he gets to play alongside JC Horn. And then things could work out. Hell, I don't know. I'm just throwing shit at the wall and see if it sticks at this point. But I mean, not saying that it would be a mistake if we didn't take a chance at him, but I'm throwing options out there that make sense not only from a financial standpoint, but from an overall defensive standpoint that would fit Navarro's defense, that would fit our cap space. So I'm trying to keep it in there as realistic as possible. And I think this is a realistic one, right? I don't disagree with that. I talked about him last week. Again, I would love it. I would love it. I mean, his market value is not that bad either. I wonder what his market value is. I don't think his market value is that bad either, Chuck. I'm trying to pull up his market value. I mean, for a guy who's 26, career earnings 8 million. Let's see his market value. 11 million, 3 years. I mean, we're paying Jordan Fuller. Look at that. Jordan Fuller's the same price. Comparable players. So Talanoa Hufanga. Talanoa Hufanga. I think that's how you pronounce it. Again, market value is there, man. I mean, get him, the contract's not going to be an issue. I mean, but it's crazy that you go look at him, comparable players, and you're paying. I mean, I know we paid Jordan Fuller. I mean, we barely paid him. Yeah. I was going to talk about Javon Holland tonight. I mean, I think he's a guy we could look into. I'm not necessarily saying we got to. But look at Jordan Fuller, man, 26 years old. I mean, a 1-year deal, we offered him $3 million when you could get Talafonga basically. I mean, now his market value's gone up, but damn, comparable. He's getting compared to all these guys, and he's only averaging. So we're looking at a 3-year, 11.9. It's not bad. Still, it's not bad from a contract player he is. All right, let's get into another one. I want to talk about. How would you guys feel about this running back? I'm going to pull him up here shortly. He didn't have a good year, did he? Last year, he had a hell of a year, though. It's crazy how he fell off from last year, in my opinion. For sure. He'd definitely be a number one safety. How would y'all feel about Carolina going after Raheem Mostert? I know he's 32 years old. Probably wouldn't have to pay him that much. The reason why I bring up Raheem Mostert is because of the whole Miles Sanders situation. I think Miles Sanders probably out. In my opinion, if they're smart, you cut them, you save more money. Yes, you take a dead cap hit, but you save more money than you do on the dead cap. So I think they're clearly not. I mean, listen, we can't be sitting here and sugarcoating this. That we know we're clearly not thrilled with what Miles Sanders has brought to the table here in Carolina, and with that contract, he's a salary cap casualty, in my opinion. And it's written all over Miles Sanders. It's not personal. At the end of the day, it's business. That's what this league is. So the guys on the wrong side of 30 and with injuries, lackluster performance, I mean, he's a pretty easy cut, in my opinion. Not to mention, we're also dealing with another issue in the backfield. You got Jonathan Brooks, who tore his second ACL tear. He's done. He's probably done for this season. It doesn't sound like he's playing in 2025. That's just another void to fill. So what do? Right? Like, you got to go out and get a proven, available running back who can contribute for a year or two while the team figures out its long-term vision. Like, Raheem wouldn't be the starter here. We all know that it'd be Chuba Hubbard. Okay, so all right. So everybody is in getting a running back. I'd rather again. I think me too personally. The reason why I bring up Mostert is because I do think I still think he's got some left in the tank. I mean, this is his 2023 stats. I mean, he went from this to this. This is 2024, which is not very good. I get it. Not very good, but I think he was injured most of this season, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, that 2023 season just gives you a lot of hope right there. But again, I know he's 31. He's no spring chicken. His role got small, but my understanding, it wasn't an injury. It was that he's got his role got smaller in 2024. So, HN took over, right? But you go and look at this 2020. You go look at his 2023 season. I mean, it's got it written all over, right? Like, you go look at his grading 2023 season and his stats. I mean, my gosh, what a monster year. Led the NFL in 18 rushing yards. Those are not numbers you just ignore, though. I think that's the reason why I bring them up, because if guys a little older coming off a down year and he's shown that he can be produce at a high level, especially in a committee, and he doesn't need to be the feature back to make an impact. I mean, realistically, Panthers signed Mostert. He's probably going to slot in as that number 2 again, like I said, as behind Hubbard, who's on the rise. But I could beg to differ that Raheem Mostert and him would be a 1-2 punch, especially if you got Mostert taking the Lions' share of the carries, and then and then Mostert's just that nice change of pace kind of ordeal, right? I think this move makes sense. Again, I'm not really pushing it. Like, I'm not hammering it to your guys and saying we need to make this move. But I'm just saying it does make sense to me to make this move, because it could be a smart and it could be a low risk, high reward kind of move, right? He's not going to cost you a ton of money either, which is critical, right? So if a team is looking to make some other moves in free agency, plus you got running backs that are becoming increasingly valuable now with the whole Saquon Barkley ordeal, especially when teams are throwing more and more against defenses that are dropping back to stop the pass. Moser can provide depth and experience and a solid option out the backfield. I think you giving the team some flexibility with the rest of the roster. Let's be real. Again, I don't think Moser is going to be some savior or anything like that. He doesn't need to be that. He's just a solid plug and play veteran who could just help stabilize an otherwise shaky backfield. I mean, I'm just saying. That's why it makes sense to me. Not saying we got to do this. We need to go get Raheem Mostert, but in my mind, it does make some sense, right? Again, it's a cheap option. But yeah, if I had again, drafting, rather get AJ Dillon. I'm cool with AJ Dillon too, Chuck Lee. But if I'm drafting someone, maybe I can get like Raheem Sanders out of South Carolina. Maybe I know I'm a homer, but I like Rocket Sanders out of South Carolina and get him in the 7th round. If we're looking for a workhorse running back, there's your guy. I like Rocket Sanders out of South Carolina for a guy if we wanted to get like a late round running back. Have you seen Mafar? Yes, Vino Thor. I've talked about Mafar on my show. Appreciate everyone joining the live stream again. Do me a favor, make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss any new content. Greatly appreciate that. We got over 40 people watching. Everybody has their preference, man. Chuck says, give me Gibbons or Ollie Gordon. Okay. Not mad about that. I thought it was here that I first heard of him. Bowling ball. Yeah. Yeah. Ollie Gordon got compared to Derrick Henry. I don't know if I could compare Ollie Gordon to Derrick Henry, but I saw some analysts compare him to Ollie Gordon. I don't see it. I just don't see it. He's a bruiser of a back, but I just don't see Ollie Gordon as a Derrick Henry, in my opinion. Kind of be funny. Chuck Lee would be kind of funny to get Ollie Gordon and have 2 Oklahoma State boys in the backfield, him and Hubbard. That would be kind of funny. All right, let's talk about a defensive tackle that I like. He's got a crazy name. It's a crazy name. I was looking into this guy today. Could be a cheap option, by the way, too. Gordon just needs to stop drinking and driving drunk. Yeah, that could be an issue. That could be an issue. I compare Ollie Gordon to Brian Robinson Jr. I like that comparison. I like that comparison more than Derrick Henry. I like that comparison more than Derrick Henry. All right, let's talk about Levi Onwuzurike. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Onwuzurike. So Levi, got a defensive tackle, could get him for cheap. And he'd be a cheap fix. All right. Is he an answer? No. Okay, like is he the answer that's just going to save our defensive line? No, but would he be a cheap fix? Absolutely. Would he have depth? Sure. Would he be better than Shy Total? Absolutely. anybody would be better than Shy Total. A wet paper bag would be better than Shy Total. Okay. Levi is 6'3", 290-pound defensive tackle, played college ball at Washington. Now he posted up some solid numbers, as you can see here this season, but he also posted up some solid numbers in college in Washington. You go look him up. I actually have him right here in front of me. When he was at Washington, he had 7 sacks at Washington, 17 tackles for a loss over 39 games. Now, again, this guy is not some world beating defensive lineman. Okay. Like enough to get him drafted in the second round by Detroit back in 2021. But since then, he's been mostly a backup, but did manage to start 10 games this year. And in those start, got a solid run defensive grade of a 64.1 overall, 67.1 pass rushing grade. I mean, ultimately racking up a nice 69.4 overall grade for the year. So not a bad guy who's barely been a full-time starter. And we're probably going to need to target defensive tackles in the draft first, or edge rusher, but again, there's no way they can afford to dump a ton of cash into free agency. They've got other needs to address, but we got guys like Mason Graham, you got Kenneth Grant out there, Walter Nolan. There's a lot of defensive tackles in this draft that are on the radar or on my radar. But if they miss out on like guys like Mason Graham, or maybe a Kenneth Grant or whatever, you miss out on those guys, or you decide to wait until after the draft. Like, I think this is a guy that could still be on the market, way to be scooped up for a relatively low price, right? Again, he's not going to be a magical fix, but he's no Derek Brown either, but he's a guy that has the potential, I think, especially at a cost that you're just not going to go bankrupt on at the franchise, right? Is he going to solve all of our run defensive issues? No. But he might just be able to he'd be a good stopgap until they can get something better, or not. Who knows? Maybe he develops and continues to just get better for all we know, right? I think at this point, when we're talking about our run defense, any help at any point is going to be appreciated. So I'm not opposed to going out that route. All right, let's get into another guy. Now, let's see here. Who was my other guy? I had a couple more guys I want to talk about. Actually, you know what? No, I didn't have any more. No, I have one more guy I want to talk about. Keenan Allen. The reason why I bring Keenan Allen up is because, again, the market value for these wide receivers, again, you're talking about a 32-year-old guy. I mean, this could be just like a 1-year deal. I know we want to get Bryce Young some weapons, right? Like, again, the reason why I bring up Keenan Allen again is that, again, if you can convince a Keenan Allen that they're not a lost cause, that they might have a shot, and let's be real, his resume speaks for itself. He was drafted by the Chargers in 2023. In 2013, he's hauled in nearly 1,000 catches for over 11,000 yards, 66 touchdowns. I mean, even though he's on the wrong side of his 30s, but he put up 70 receptions. I mean, look at that. 70 receptions, 7 touchdowns. targeted 117 times, drops 8. I mean, he's still doing shit. I mean, I know he didn't get 1,000 yards because you're playing with DJ Moore and Roma Duzier, but he also played with for a very dysfunctional offense in Chicago, in my opinion. Like if he can do that in that mess, imagine what he can do in a competent system. So let's not kid ourselves. I think Allen isn't going to come in as some kind of again. I don't think he's going to be some kind of franchise savior. I think the Panthers are still a work in progress. And one veteran receiver is going, I know one veteran receiver isn't going to suddenly make us contenders. But what he will do is provide a dependable target, uh, which gives Bryce another dependable target, someone who knows how to run crisp routes, get open, make plays in clutch situations. Like that's something this team desperately needs. The presence of an experienced leader in a locker room could be also invaluable in helping guys like Leggett, Coker, and let's say they add in new draft picks develop at a faster rate. Of course, I know Allen isn't a long-term solution. That's not my point here. Okay, this wouldn't be some magical fix that suddenly just turns the Panthers into contenders overnight. But if Carolina can sell him on a promising 2025 roster and a real deal that takes the leap they hope he will, this wide receiver core could go from one of the worst in the league to at least a very respectable. And let's be clear, respectable is a hell of a lot better than what they have now. Like, I mean, again, I think Leggett's a raw talent. I think there's potential there. He has to get those beaters right. When I'm talking about his beaters, I'm talking about his hands. And if you don't get that reference, then you're a special person. And then of course, he's also, you got Jalen Coker, who might be a diamond in the rough, and you still have Mr. Reliable in Adam Thielen, right? But again, beyond Allen, Carolina also needs to be smart in the draft. Like if we think grabbing one veteran is enough, I mean, you're sorely mistaken. I think there a mix of experience, young talent is how you build a receiving room. Getting a true number one wide receiver in draft combined with Allen, and then the rest of the guys could actually make things interesting in Carolina. So maybe they go after a T Mac at number 8. What makes it still don't make sense to me to go after a wide receiver at number 8 pick, but I think the Panthers should also consider investing in a reliable slot receiver. I think someone that could be Thielen's predecessor is a good idea to look into. Someone who consistently moves the chains, takes some of the pressure off of Young. It's not about signing one player, it's about building that ecosystem to me that allows Bryce Young to succeed, right? Um, so another factor when it comes to the offense as well as the defense is that you need to consider this in the consider offensive coordinator and the scheme, because schemes matter for both sides. Like if Carolina doesn't find a way to maximize talent that they bring in, it's not going to matter who they sign or who they draft. Like again, our offense, our defense needs to be creative. You got to be efficient, and a game plan that actually makes plays. For on the offensive side for Bryce Young, strengths rather than you just forcing him to make miracle plays behind a shaky supporting cast in the wide receiver room. We all know that offensive line is very good, right? And they improved it last year, and they definitely improved even after losing Austin Corbett. So, and guys stepped up when guys went down. Like if they don't get this right, even Allen won't make a difference. So, again, the biggest thing about Keenan Allen is convincing him. That's not going to be easy. He's a veteran who spent most of his career on a team at least trying to be competitive. I think if the Panthers wanted to make this happen, they need to give a reason beyond just money. And that means you would have to surround them with actual talent and giving a young a system that works, and then proving they have a plan. Because at 32, Allen isn't looking to waste his final years in a dead end situation. Um, but again, I wouldn't be opposed to this. I'm not saying that it's necessarily we need to. Um, it's just some options here. Okay. Caleb Williams is trash. DJ Moore got 1K with Kyle Allen and Justin Fields, right? We need youth. We need talent. Yeah, we need a lot of things, man. We need a lot of things. So those are some more free agent options. Javon Holland was a guy I talked about today. Again, I think Javon Holland would be a good safety for us, but again, at the same time, the contract could be an issue with Javon Holland, which makes it I think it's a potential fit for Javon Holland, but I think it's a tricky fit. And that's really it. I mean, there's some more guys that'll probably come up. We've talked about bunch of different guys for the past couple of weeks. Each and every Monday, we've talked about like some different free agents. So, sup, Clay? What's up, Him Brown? Rather have Hollywood Brown. Yeah, I mean, that's how much to advertise my business. Hen, you would have to DM me. We would have to talk about that. We would have to talk about how much to advertise your business. Rather have Hollywood Brown. I wouldn't be opposed to Hollywood Brown either. Chuck Lee, it's convincing him to get. I think convincing him to get away from Kansas City, because I think Kansas City is going to try to keep him. What about Titar and free agent? He's only 27. By the way, greetings from Germany. Appreciate you, Coach P. Greetings. Let me go look at TR Tart's market value before I say yes. His market value is not bad. I mean, 1 point. He's getting paid 1.1, a 1 year, $5 million deal. 17 game plays last year, 29 total tackles, 15 solo tackles. It's not a wishful thinking, my friend. I'm just saying it's a potential fit. It's just a tricky fit because of the cap space. That's all I'm saying. Not wishing to get him. Him Brown bet. Yeah. Again, DM me either on Twitter or Instagram. Right there. You can follow me over there, Hen. You can DM me there. If you want to talk about a price for advertising your business, we can talk price. We can talk price. That's for sure. That's for sure. But Tart wouldn't be bad. I mean, for the market value, I mean, a 1 year deal wouldn't be bad. I don't know if with the statistics, it's not bad. I mean, 15 solo tackles, 14 assisted, 1 forced fumble. Yeah. What's PFF got him? Let's look at his PFF real quick. Let me see what he's got. D lineman. It's not bad. 6'2", 304. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, Coach P. Terrible. Tier Tart's not bad. Tier Tart's not bad, actually. Overall grade's got a 76. Pass rushing grade, 75.6. Run defensive grade, 69.7. 20 solo tackles, 1 sack. 6 assisted, 1 forced fumble. That's not bad. Wouldn't be opposed. His market value is not bad for him. It's only a 1-year, $5 million contract. The money's there for him. I don't even. Oh, hints like restructure Moten, sign Horn, cut Miles, cut Dane Jackson, cut Fuller, cut Tuttle. Endless. Laugh out loud. That's funny. Again, I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. We need Paulson Adebo. That was another guy I was going to talk about tonight. I mean, I'm not opposed to Paulson Adebo for sure. Paulson Adebo is an interesting one. Paulson Adebo, for a guy who's got 10 interceptions, like Chuckley, I'm on board with Paulson Adebo. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just don't know what his market value would be at. I need to go look at his market value. That's the question. I mean, we're talking about a 10 interception ball hawk. I mean, we got to think about it this way. We're trying to build this defense back up. But yeah, I listen, Paulson Adebo would be like, you got to think about it this way. The reason why we talk about going after the defense isn't just to rebuild the defense and make our defense better. It's also going to take pressure off of Bryce Young. So again, I'll say that. You know, Paulson Adebo is definitely a guy I looked into, though, Chuck. Like Adebo, in my opinion, Adebo, Chuck, is that like he wouldn't just make. I think he would make our secondary obviously better, but it would make our lives a lot easier from an offensive standpoint. If you have a guy like that who can get you 10 interceptions, that puts Bryce Young back on the field to score points. Right? That's the way people got to think about it when rebuilding a defense. Right? You can stop the run, you can stop the pass, you can force turnovers, right? You put pressure on the quarterback. That's how you get your offense back on the field. It takes pressure off of Bryce because he's like, man, I continue to get back on the field. I can make plays, right? So, I mean, again, if you want to support your franchise quarterback too, it's not just getting a wide receiver, ladies and gentlemen. It's also building up your defense. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to going after Paulson Adebo, right? Like here's the thing. I think if we went and got Paulson Adebo, I think we should re-sign Mike Jackson as well. That way we have 3 starting caliber cornerbacks capable of holding down. Right. And then the thing is if you sign Paulson Adebo, which I do like that one, Chuck. I was looking into it today. Like the Panthers wouldn't have to rely on Horn doing everything in that coverage, and the defense wouldn't crumble the second he gets hurt, right? Which I don't think he's going to. I think he's starting to get his body back in the thing, but depth matters. And like Carolina has learned that the hard way. Like if they continue to ignore this secondary this all season, because I'm also in this secondary, I expect the same cycle of blown leads in the fourth quarter collapse continues, right? So you got to be aggressive. You got to be aggressive improving this defense. The more you improve that defense, I think it gives you more opportunities for Bryce Young to work the short fieldage, fewer deficits to overcome, less pressure to carry an entire team on his back, right? That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. Like Alfred Collins, good. I like Alfred Collins a lot. We're gonna do a mock draft this week, so we'll be breaking it down. You get a great number 2 corner pair with Horn. You steal him from the stupid ass Saints, right, Chuck? Steal him away from them ain'ts. 2-year till me dear for Mike Jack. Yeah, we need to fix secondary, true free agents, and the D line. Feel that, Chuck. Well, I appreciate everyone joining the live stream again. Do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss out any new content. Basically, just so I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Those 3 things, make sure you do those 3 things. I would greatly appreciate it. Again, follow me on all my social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. Also, TikTok's the same thing. You can follow me there. Also, shout out to BetUS. Our sponsorship of this live stream is always. Link is in this description of this live stream. Sign up for free today. Get up to 125% bonus up on your first bet, up to $2,000, but bet responsibly. Okay. So I appreciate you guys. And as always, y'all know what to do. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on the Ropp Star Report, 8 p.m. sharp. And we'll be breaking down some more stuff. I haven't decided what I'm going to break down tomorrow, but I'm going to come up with something. I'm always thinking. So, again, appreciate you guys as always. Make sure y'all know what to do. Pound the like, subscribe, become a member, all that good stuff. And again, as always, 3 things before I leave you. Have fun, be safe, keep pounding. I'm out of here. Peace.